welcome to the Community Services Committee meeting for January the 18th, 2018. I'm Councillor Bob Chapman, the Chair of the Committee. The members are, on my right, the Vice Chair is Councillor John Neal. Members are Councillor Rick Kerr, Councillor Nestor Pidwerbecki, Councillor John Shields, and of course our Mayor, John Henry. And visiting councillors we have with us today are Councillor Amy McQuaid-England and Councillor Gail Bates. On my left are well, I have two important people. So yes, it takes two of them to look after me now, I guess. Is the committee coordinators, Felicia Biontet and Laura Davis. And now I ask Commissioner Diskey if you could introduce staff, please, Commissioner.
Good morning, and through you, Chair Chapman, with me today I have Beth Mullen, Director of Strategic and Business Services, Glenn Simmons, Director of Operations, Jag Sharma is with us today, City Manager, Mike Sluggett is Manager of Traffic, Street Lighting and Parking, Phil Lyon is Manager of Roads Operations, Mike Saulnier, Manager of Operations, Waste Management, Michelle Whitbread, Coordinator of Parks and Environmental, and with us from Fire Services is Rod Thwaites.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And I'll remind everybody to please, when speaking, to use the microphones as this meeting is recorded and webcast. Yes,
I'll be leaving at about 9:45. I had an appointment at 8, but it switched to 10 o'clock this morning, and I couldn't do anything about it, so I'll be leaving the meeting at 9:45.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Declarations of pecuniary interest, Mayor.
Chair Chapman, thank you. There's a significant federal funding announcement this morning in Whitby, and I'll be leaving at 10:30.
Okay, so that's not a declaration of interest. Okay, thank you. Councillor Shields? Okay. Oh, okay, thanks. No declarations of interest. Okay, we have no presentations, delegations, delegation requests, correspondence requests, referrals from City Council. The first item on the agenda is the first report of the Oshawa Accessibility Advisory Committee. Councillor Shields?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just have a motion to refer that to staff.
Right. Referral to staff to Y is in the report from the Accessibility Committee. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And now we have additional agenda-related items. You have a motion, Councillor Neal?
Yes, that correspondence 1806 and CS 1807, submitting comments concerning report CS 1802, be added to the Community Services Committee agenda for January 18, 2018, and that the rules of procedure be waived in order to add report CS 1805 concerning temporary amendments to City's traffic bylaw as a time-sensitive item to the Community Services Committee meeting for January 18, 2018. I can move that.
Okay, so first off, we'll do the two correspondences, adding them to the agenda. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Now on the motion to waive the rules to add another item. All in favor? And on that item, Councillor Neal?
On that item, that I'll make the recommendation that the it's on there, isn't it?
Yeah, motion
that the motion regarding temporary amendments to the city's traffic bylaw due to Center Street parking maintenance, garage maintenance work that the community service recommended council. That whereas, do you want me to read the whole thing? I don't think I need to. Everyone has it.
Everybody has a copy? Basically, what it is they're finishing the repairs on our parking garage, which involves the bus depot, and this is to amend the traffic parking bylaw. Buses are going to have to park on the north side of Bond Street between Simcoe and Center to allow the construction. It's time sensitive because the work is scheduled to start the morning of our next council meeting. And if this passes today, it will go to council tomorrow at our special meeting. Any questions from comments from committee members? No? Councillor McQuaid-England?
Oh, sorry. It's okay. Just wondering, how long have we known about the work that's being done? And when were we given notice of it?
Through you, Chair Chapman, CS staff learned about this late last week.
There's no, there's no building permits or anything issued for the repairs and stuff that need to be made in this building?
Through you, Chair Chapman. We were aware of the repairs being done earlier. We were not aware of the impact of the repairs being done until late last week. So to your point about building permits, etc., yes, there are building permits issued for the repairs of the bus garage.
Can there be a change in policy that when building permits are issued for things of this nature that it be immediately shared with, communicate with the appropriate staff so that we're not doing things in a time-sensitive manner, and we're also giving notice to the public sooner than what we're giving? Because I think that if the building permits and that have been issued, we would have had ample notice in order to do this prior than to today. So I'm just hoping that there could be a look at a change in procedure.
The building permits were issued for the whole repair to the whole garage.
No, I understand that.
Hold on a minute, I'm speaking, thank you. This is the timing of what parts of the construction are being done, and we were just notified late last week of the construction moving north and into the bus depot part of the complex. So we didn't know, and having the building permit issue, we still wouldn't have known. It's the timing of when the construction can be done, and we know there's lots of variables that go around that.
I just think that there could be a little bit smoother process, and I think that the individuals involved in this should be notified of that as well, in terms of how notice is given, because I do think that this is going to cause a bit of traffic issues and confusion within the community. I understand why it needs to be done. I'm just simply speaking to the notice of it and how it should be done in the future.
And that's why it's brought up today. It gives a week and a half, and Mr. Johns was notified just recently about that to talk to the downtown businesses as well. So on the motion, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So that will go to the special council meeting tomorrow. So we're on to the consent agenda items to be pulled. Well, aren't they on the agenda now? Okay, so we got to do something with 06 and 07, 1806 and 07, the correspondence, and refer them to the report.
Refer to the report?
Shields?
Yes.
All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So items to be pulled, committee members? Councillor Neal?
Yeah, I'd like to pull 1801.
1801, okay. Any others? Councillor Shields?
For the visiting councillor, 1802.
Okay. Any others? Then on the remainder, which is 1803, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So 1802, you pulled it, Councillor Shields, for Councillor McQuaid-England, I assume. Do you want to move it?
I'll move it, yes, for Councillor Bates. But
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Councillor Bates. So it's on the floor. The motion's, the recommendation's been moved.
Thank you. If I can just speak to this, I have a couple of questions through you, Chair Chapman. I'd like to know how long the DRPS was observing the catwalk at this area, Wecker and Madawaska.
Through you, Chair Chapman. We were told that they were doing surveillance on this for 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Do you have any idea what times of day that was done?
I'm afraid not.
Okay. I lived in the area for 25 years, so I know that that catwalk is a concern. It was a concern when my boys were small. It was a concern when my boys were teens. But more than the catwalk, there is some activity that goes on the street. It's known to go on, and it's like any other neighborhood in Oshawa. It is of concern to the residents. However, one of my concerns is, let me just have a look here. In the report, a specific councillor was named. And can you tell me why that happened, please?
Through you, Chair Chapman, you're correct. A specific councillor was named. Through the chair, that probably shouldn't have happened. There was a miss on my review of the reports. I should have removed that. I didn't. I did speak to the city manager about it, and we discussed it to ensure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, a concern by naming a specific councillor. If, I mean, this is a public document, you can put that councillor at risk of if there are indeed any criminal activity going on and they happen to catch that name. You are putting the councillor at risk. Do you agree?
Through you, Chair Chapman, I agree that the name should not be in the report.
Thank you.
Any others? Sorry,
I'm
I
not
thought you were
quite
finished. Sorry.
No, not quite.
I thought
Sorry.
I saw you go down to push the button. So go ahead.
Sorry. Do you think perhaps, through you, Chair Chapman, that an apology to that councillor is in order and perhaps in writing to assure that it doesn't happen again by accident?
Commissioner?
Through you, Chair Chapman, that would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor McQuaid, England?
First off, I appreciate Councillor Bates for bringing forward the concerns raised. I was also quite shocked by the way in which this report was written. In the 8 years that I have been on council, normal policy and procedure is that I don't even sit on this committee, so I could not have moved the motion and or referred anything to staff. It was done by a council member through this committee. I simply raised concerns, and at the end of the day, I understand that it's being admitted that there was a mistake made, but this is now on the public record. I was not notified ahead of time prior to this meeting of the fact that a mistake was made. It's pretty upsetting. It's also very upsetting for the residents in the neighborhood. To be clear, when I made the complaint through Service Oshawa, the complaint that's mentioned in the report, I made it on behalf of a number of residents, and I did that in order to be efficient and to be effective with the time of Service Oshawa. If in the future I'm supposed to individually complain for each individual member within the community on an issue, I will do that, except that takes a significant amount of time. So that one complaint that's referenced in this report actually is in reference to about 20 to 30 members of the community in this neighborhood. And the concerns that were raised at this committee also related to motorized vehicles which were going through the walkway, garbage, debris, and other issues that were happening. And the motion that was moved was to provide potential options. There are members of the community that live in the area that would like to consider the option that was offered in years prior to buy portions of the land back in order to close that walkway. I also suggest that this committee consider in these walkways that end up being a danger to a lot of people, especially people walking alone, young women, and elderly and vulnerable individuals, that we may consider adding security cameras to catwalks or to walkways we know have issues, so that we can monitor the situation and at least have physical evidence when or if crimes may be occurring that may not be caught during the time that individuals were there. My question, though, to the Commissioner on this issue was, were you notified by the police of the fact that there was surveillance happening, or was that notification from me? And did you speak to police personally?
Through you, Chair Chapman. We contacted the police to find out if there was any type of surveillance taking place, and they informed us of what they had done at that particular time.
And are you aware that the surveillance taking place was also part of the surveillance that had linked 17 arrests to the Gold Crown gang, and also related to the stabbing at the local high school in the area? Did the police notify you of that and some of their findings from the surveillance?
Through you, Chair Chapman, the police did not share that information with us.
So what information did the police share with you? Because based on the report, they shared just enough information to make the complaints made by residents a little bit as if they're not potentially actual real safety concerns and complaints. So I'm wondering which constable or which police officer you spoke to.
I do not, through you, Chair Chapman, I do not have that information with me at this particular time. I can get that for you. I would say to you that as part of our investigation in this, we contacted the police to do surveillance. They indicated to us that they were already doing or had been doing surveillance, and they gave us the information.
And why wasn't the police officers or those that you were speaking with identified in this report?
I can't say I thought it was pertinent, and that would be my fault.
At what point will I be receiving my written apology for the way in which this report was written?
Later today.
And will that be on the public record as well and included within the council agenda, as this report is a public report and the mistake is now part of the public record?
Do you want a public apology? You send an email to council?
I'd like it on the public record as part of the agenda.
Just hold on a minute.
Through you, Chair Chapman, that's a possibility. I'd like to have some time to think about it, but
sure.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, at this point in time, I had no opportunity or had no notice prior to this report being made public and put on the public record. It's now been stated through the Commissioner that a mistake was made and that it should never have been included. And in order for fairness for public process, that apology needs to be on the public record. So this is not something that should be considered. This is something that as part of process should be automatically done in order to ensure the fairness of what has happened in this situation and the potential risk that I've been put at by the way in which this report has been written.
Okay, this is a public meeting and it's web streamed. He said that I can't order him or the committee can't direct him to do that. He said he will write an apology, and how he does that is entirely up to him and the city manager. Councillor Shields.
Mr. Chair, this may have already been done. There's obviously nothing we can do regarding the items that are printed now, but can we go and update the report online so anyone that looks at it after this point, we can change and just refer to a council member?
Can it be amended like that? Sorry? Okay. The clerk says you could do replacement pages.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kerr?
It's just a matter of process and future on an item like this. Personally, I've had received a complaint from one citizen about one item, and I've taken it on, and then I've advised the citizen and then in future the best course of action is to deal with Service Oshawa, because it gets, and we all know the correct process and how it works so well. I wonder if it might have been more helpful for Durham Regional Police and the city if instead of taking all of these complaints and putting them into through one councillor, whether each of those 30 citizens, if that's how many were complaining, were encouraged to individually put in a complaint so we would have understood the magnitude of the impact on the neighborhood. I'm just suggesting in future that might be a perhaps a more effective way to garner information and to see the scope of a problem rather than putting in one complaint. Just a comment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McQuaid-England?
In reference to that, Councillor Kerr, within my complaint to Service Oshawa, I did note that it was a number of members of the community, and I also did speak to the Commissioner personally about this after the complaint was made, and I referred all complaints related to Durham Regional Police to the police, and each individual member of that community had the police number and were dealing with the proper channels. The concerns that this committee was intended to look at, and which I thought was supposed to be looked at, was the safety of the catwalk and the safety of the walkway in general. The fact that there are motorized vehicles going through there, the fact that the lighting is very minimal in the evening. It's pretty much non-existent. And there are police reports and other things that can be referenced to some of the violent activity that has taken place. As our Councillor Bates has also mentioned, this issue has been going on for many years since she lived in the community. I don't think receiving this report for information is the right answer. I think that in fairness, there should be a recommendation possibly from a council member to send out a public notice to the members of the community to ask for a survey to find out what's actually going on in the community so that you have the proper information and that you can deal with it in an appropriate manner.
Councillor Kerr.
This isn't a debate. I'm not doing a cross debate here. Just hearing the, and I didn't see this in the report, so correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the concerns I've heard expressed today is that motor vehicles were actually able to drive down this path. I'm just wondering if with an installation of bollards, which would allow cyclists and people with baby carriages and so forth to access and use the walkway, but would prevent motor vehicles. I did notice in the report, are those installed in this location, or could they be, and that might obviate part of the problem?
Through you, Chair Chapman, no, there are not bollards installed there.
So it's just open.
So it's just open. So to your point, could they be installed? The answer is correct. Yes, it could be.
Thank you. I think that might be worth investigating. Thank you.
Okay, any others? And on the recommendation, did you want to make an amendment for staff to look at receipt for information and that staff look at the installation of bollards?
I would. Thank you.
Okay. So on the amendment, all in favor? Opposed? All on the report, the recommendation as amended, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 1801, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. This is in regard to a new crossing guard at the Esterbrook Drive, Green Hill Avenue, and Grandview Street North. Students living in this new subdivision development along the west side of Grandview Street North.
Oh, sorry, you got to move the recommendation first.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Sorry, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought I did one.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, that's students living in the new subdivision development along the west side of Grandview Street North walk to Seneca Trails Public School and St. Katira, Tekakwitha Catholic School. Students living on the west side of Grandview Street North are required to cross Grandview Street North to walk to school, which is a very busy area. So I just want to thank the Director Beth Mullen and Commissioner Ron Diskey for putting this report together. And I think that it's that this crossing guard being put there is a great asset to that area because it's very, very busy. So I'll call for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Any other comments? No? Then a recorded vote by Councillor Neal, please.
Councillor Neal?
Yes.
Councillor Pidwerbecki is absent. Councillor Shields?
Yes.
Mayor Henry?
Yes.
Councillor Chapman?
Yes,
Councillor Kerr?
Yes.
that carries. Okay, there's no matters excluded. Item to be introduced by councillors. Councillor Neal.
Yeah, I was just wondering, the area up at the, where all the stacked townhouses are north of the university, and I guess I'm talking about that area and concerns of, and I would add snowplows as well and fire trucks getting to that area. I keep a tape measure in the van, or in the truck, I guess I have now. And, well, Councillor Henry knows that because he's borrowed it from me before. But I really have concerns about whether we can get equipment in there. And I'm talking about even snowplows once that's occupied. Like, I just need some reassurance that because it's so, once it's occupied, Mr. Chair, it is going to be a city unto itself, like that area. Just driving up Simcoe North and viewing it from the hill up where the 407, it's just, like, it's just amazing the amount of development has gone in there. In fact, it even dwarfs the fire station. You have to look for our fire station now when you're driving by. And I'm just wondering, like I say, it really worries me and it concerns me. So I'm just putting that out there because, like I'm telling you, it is really high density parking on the streets, Mr. Chair. And you know what's, like, it's always gone on around that university. It's so darn busy. There's lots of young people up there, and bylaw and our planning staff and your department, Mr. Disky, are doing their best. But I just want some reassurance that everything is being looked at with the best intentions of the safety of the residents.
Well, in answer to that, we have heard from the fire chief that it's been checked out in that regard and through the building permit side of it to meet the proper standards. Like any other, well, not any other, but like many other streets in the city where people park when they're not supposed to, we have parking enforcement, but for as far as snowplows are concerned, we also have the additional can't park on the streets during, November to April at certain times, so snow plowing can get done. And there's also other means, if it starts to become a problem, there's other means such as staff doing an assessment once it's moved in there, and we put no parking on one side of the street like we have in many subdivisions, or as you know, the Camp Samac area, the Samac Trail area has no parking mostly during the whole day because of people parking there to go across to the university. So there's all those options if something comes up later on, and I'm sure once it starts getting occupied and filled out, then the appropriate staff will be keeping an eye on that. And obviously, when we get calls and concerns from residents, it will be brought to the attention of staff, and they have all those options to look after.
Just to follow up to that, Thoroughbred, which is a street up there, I think it's 2420. There's actually one address, and then the units are all and numbered after that. I understand there's some kind of address. The address numbers are going to be changed. I find it hard to believe that we can actually address, and that's not necessarily your your issue, but I mean, I find it hard that all these this address can be issued on that street, and then we're going to change all the addresses. I find it for our fire departments and our police departments, how do we address something and then we're going to change everything?
I would suggest that's a development services, because the subdivision plans, the street names, and the numbers on how houses are numbered are all coordinated through development services with consultation or through a policy, I don't know which, through the 911 system. As you know, in Durham, we can't have two streets named the same.
Yeah.
We have to go through that process, and that's all development services.
Okay, but like I say, it was addressed. All the addresses went to whoever needs to deal with street addresses, which there's a lot of entities out there that need the proper street address. And then for this to be changed,
yeah, that might be a question.
Is rather well, it's rather disturbing to know that, and it just multiplies my feelings of that whole development up there, of of what's taken place. So I mean, it just adds to my feelings that I have an uneasy feeling about it, and I really wish that I could probably get something in writing or some kind of assurance that I don't hear these things happening. That's all I'm saying.
No, and I acknowledge your concerns,
Yeah.
but I think the CS staff don't have any ability, or they're not involved with that. So I think you need to talk to. I would suggest perhaps the Commissioner of Development Services, who might have a response to that. Anything else? Motion to adjourn, Councillor Shields. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.